It's finally time. A little bit late on the ND5, but better late than never. And you know, sometimes collaborations, you gotta spend the time to nail them. You know, I'm not in the game of just trying to sell anything and everything. I want to make stuff that's really cool, really pushing the limits. This is the ND5, 5 years of doing the ND series. And I also have this big box of all the other ND boots, just to kind of give you a brief history of it, because this is 5 years in the making. It's probably the very last ND boot that we're gonna do, unless a really cool idea comes up. But you know, it's like, how many more variations can you make? And before we really start stretching out to, you know, like any fighter, like any boxer, UFC fighter, they always end up going out on their shield. But the best, maybe not the best ones, but the ones that end the strongest, they go out with it on top. So that's what we're trying to do with the ND5. So you never know, might come back. But I think this is a nice end cap to the whole series. Because I think we got a pretty unique, well, you already seen it because, and I've seen it too, because Nick's posted the making of to try to get ahead of the marketing, because this is Monday. These launch on Thursday. And so we still try to get them to you as fast as possible, still trying to get this thing done. And so let's check them out. But first, let's unbox the unboxing knife. I got this from the Tik Tok Shop. And I think Tik Tok Shop is interesting to me because there's a lot of fake stuff on there, seemingly. There's a lot of like really cool, innovative, like new brands popping up and any sort of possible like space from gum to knives to whatever. And I saw this, a couple small knives, and I was like, I'm gonna just buy some, see what they're like from TikTok. And so this is another segment of Tik Tok Shop, or Tik Tok Shop. So if it's something I would buy, it's a Tik Tok Shop. If it's something I wouldn't buy or I wouldn't recommend buying, it's a Tik Tok Shop. So let's do it. Oh, actually what is it? I don't know what this one is. Oh, I do know what this one is. Okay. So, you know, I really like the Gerber knives because it's replaceable blades. But they're big, you know, big flat utility blades. It's not the most precise thing. And then I saw this. That is a little scalpel blade, a replaceable scalpel blade. I think you release it by pulling up and pushing out, if I remember right. Yeah, because I have a hunting knife, like a skinning knife that has these replaceable blades. So you get the smallness of a cute little handheld pocket knife, but the sharpness of a freaking scalpel. And they're not that hard to replace, clearly. Like I couldn't even remember how to do it, and I did it really relatively safely. Let's see how sharp it is. Cuts like a freaking scalpel. Let me pull up how much this was. It feels very cheap. It's like a cheap plastic handle, aluminum. It's like aluminum housing and everything. And there's probably some name brands out there that make stuff like this that's better. Okay, I got these from Dolly Knives. It looks nothing like the knife I ordered. And I'm pretty sure these guys sell fake knives too. Because they have Higo no Kami knives. They're probably fake. They got the donut knives that they ripped off from other people. I don't know if Blade HQ is the first one to do it or not. Yeah, that's funny. So that is a TikTok because they didn't even send me the knife I wanted. It's a completely different knife. See the difference? That looks nothing like the knife that I got. So don't trust the knives on TikTok, at least from random brands like Dolly Knives. Let's see how many. They have 26,000 sold. But I guess most people just don't care that they got something different than what they got. I feel like this could be done a lot better. So I'm gonna say avoid this one. I wouldn't buy this one. It's a cool concept, scary, dangerous. It's not, they didn't even send me the right thing. So Dolly Knives, you suck. But we'll use it. I'm gonna go get it. Actually, that sucks so bad. I'm gonna go grab another knife. All right, TikTok knife. We're not using you. So instead, we're gonna use a little NAF knife. Much higher quality. A lot less scary. To unbox whatever pants I'm gonna be wearing to try on the Indy Force. And Huckberry, if you don't know, Huckberry is one of the coolest shops in the entire world for high quality goods because they actually specialize in curating the one-stop men's shop of like high quality stuff that actually performance based, high quality materials. You pay a premium, but you get high quality stuff. So let's see what's in this box or bag. Try not to cut the bag too much. I gotta reuse it for that pair of pants. These are actually for sure my favorite travel pants that I've ever had. I'm not the biggest traveler. I haven't bought tons of travel pants, but I've traveled in this style of pant, the Proof 72-hour merino wool pant, several times, and these are nice. They don't smell as bad. You know, you always smell like an airplane when you get off of them. They are really lightweight and breathable, but they're still wool, so it's really thermal regulating. They're really stretchy. See that? So when you're sitting on that airplane, you got this nice little crotch gusset. So give you a little bit more room down there when you're sitting on an airplane for hours. You got like a zip pocket in the back, regular pocket. These are awesome little travel pants. And they're made out of wool. They got a wool blend. They have like, yeah, they just have all these really cool features. Got a little hang tag. I actually used this in the hotel when I was up in New York. Hung them up to try to air them out. So, I'll be wearing those. Try on the ND5s. If you want a pair of these, check them out. Huckberry, put links below. Unboxing part 2. This is a new bag, I swear. So, what are these pants that I'm gonna be wearing with the ND5? The photos you're about to see. So, you know, we're trying to get more and more into the other sides of the men's wear world. Not solely because of my interest in it and wanting to look at this other stuff, but like people every single time we post a video, what's that shirt he's wearing? What are those pants? What is this? What is that? And so like now that we're actually working with brands that are cool, like Flint and Tinder, like Huckberry, it gives me the opportunity to wear cool stuff, show you what we're wearing, and work with brands, start expanding out. So I appreciate you guys' support. What are these? These pants are sweet. They're really comfy. They've got the same kind of stretch as those merino wool proof pants, but these are Flint and Tinder. If you don't know who Flint and Tinder is, they make the coolest like wax canvas trucker jackets. I'm pretty sure the same jacket was worn in The Last of Us, their wax trucker jacket. Okay, I found it. These are the 365 5-pocket pants from Flint and Tinder, 98% brushed cotton twill. So it's a really fine cotton twill. Yeah, these are cool. Just a nice, good all-around pant. Nice and comfy. Like, these are similar. That's why I like them. This is a lot more stretchy, a lot more breathable. It's wool. You know, this is a travel pant. And this, you could still travel in these, but it has a lot of the features that stretch, all that stuff, but for more everyday wear. And they are comfy. Okay, to the ND5, but you gotta understand the history of the ND5 and the ND series to really understand why, you know, we're a couple months late on the ND5 and there's only 100 of these available. And I'd be more than happy to sell 500, but we had this choice to make. Do we make an ND5 we can make 500 of, that, you know, is not really the most indie boot of all time? It's just kind of like, oh, you'll throw the indie name on this, sell a bunch of them, hope for the best. Or we had a choice to go all out and make a lot less money, make a lot less pairs, but make something that's really, really unique. And I think people will appreciate, because I want this. I've wanted it since day one. And really this concept, I have a version of it, but it was never available to anybody. And I think we got something cool. So, quick version of the history. The ND series technically all started with the ND0, is what I call this. This is the Indestructible boot. We issued the challenge to Nick's, you know, pretty early on in the YouTube channel and working with these brands, especially the Pacific Northwest brands, that we really learned. It's like, oh my gosh, like these are so different than any other boot in the world. They're so ridiculous. And we issued the challenge to Nick's. What would it look like to make the ultimate version of the ultimate work boots? Like, Nick's is known for making the ultimate work boots. What's the ultimate version of the ultimate work boot? And they went all out. You know, this thing is like 16 inches tall, double leather midsole, the thick rubber midsole, full heel stack. It's got the, what size is this? It's got the medial alignment patch. It's got the toe cap. It's got the steel toe in there. It's got the lateral alignment patch. On the inside, you can see this was a fun video too. We threw everything at this boot, and we shot it with like 5 different calibers of gun. Anything. I think we maxed out a 338 Ultra, and started at like a 22. You know, just blew through that. We cut them in half with the water jet channel. We did smash test, flame test. We just threw everything at it. It was a really fun video to do, and that was well before we even thought about doing the ND series. But because of that video, and it popped off, and let's see how many views it has. 2.1 million views. And people were like, that boot is sick, I want that boot. And I wanted it too, but I also didn't want it 16 inches, and I didn't want the double midsole. I was like, I want a wearable version of this. No one's actually gonna wear this. I want a wearable version. That was really the genesis of the idea of the ND series. That's where the name ND comes from. Indestructible, Indestructible, kind of get it? That was when we came out with the ND1, the infamous ND1, the boot that everybody hated initially, and now people can't get enough of. It's like this, when we first dropped this boot, people like the boot nerds were like, how dare you do two tones on a boot? That is against every rule there's ever been about boots. And I was like, I like it. I don't care. Like, it's just sick. Like, when this ages, this brown wax flesh starts to fade to the color of the 1964 Lyman patch. You get this beautiful gradient, and I love the fact that from the outside, as you're walking, no, it just looks like a regular boot. But then as you're striding, people are gonna catch just that little pop of color of that Lyman patch. And I love it. I think it's one of the coolest boots that we've ever designed. It's one of the most popular things we've ever designed with brands. And like I said, everyone on it initially, and then the next year immediately everyone's like, bring it back. And I'm like, this is not the most like prime example of like designing. Yeah, because I'm not even complaining, because it means we're doing something fairly original, fairly unique, pushing the limits. Because if you release something and nobody cares, you might as well have not released it. If you release it and everyone loves it, it's like, what, did you actually do anything unique? Did you do anything different? Did you push the limits? Did you push people? It's not exciting. But if it's split 50-50 and 50% of people hate it, 50% of people love it, that's what you're aiming for, because you're actually disrupting. You're actually pushing the limits. You're testing what's possible, and it keeps it interesting. You know, it's like, even with this, there's conspiracies going around like, where's the ND5? They must have this, or this must have happened, or this. And we're just like, no, we're just trying to nail the design. Like, I didn't want to release something that's not worthy of the ND5. You know, it's gotta be good. You know, and I think the ND5 really harkens back to a lot of these different boots. And so after the success of the ND1, we sold like, I think 500 or 600 pairs. The very first collaboration we did, hugely popular. People were like, now we love it, bring it back next year. And I was like, well, you didn't love it last year, so this year, we're bringing it back in a different way. And that's when we released the ND2. So similar concept, we just wanted to make an indestructible boot, but I wanted it to be different. You know, I wanted to just, instead of having a toe cap, I didn't want a toe cap. Instead of just one Lyman patch, I wanted dually Lyman patches. And instead of just doing like two full-length regular Lyman patches like we could have done with the ND, I wanted to design a Lyman patch that was like our Lyman patch. Like, I wanted it to have a function, because Lyman patches are made for linemen, for climbing poles. You need that protection on the inside. You know, for an indestructible boot, I wanted more of just that metatarsal coverage. These aren't made for linemen. These are made for the rigors of indestructible pursuits. And covering that, like those big knuckle areas, is vital to the protection of this boot, you know, this concept. And so we designed this little 2-eyelet Lyman patch that really sweeps forward and covers those metatarsal knuckles. And we put on like the tactical Lyman patch. And this is another one of the underappreciated designs. I love this design because it fits so well. Angled here. It's mirrored on the inside. It's like it's a mirrored version of the ND1, where 1964 all over, and then small wax flash Lyman patch versus the opposite. And yeah, these boots are sick. We put a little bit of structure in the toe just to give it a little bit more front end heaviness. And that led us to arguably probably the most indestructible of the indie boots that we had leading up to this day, the ND3s. This boot was really well timed too, because we did it around the launch of the Last of Us series. And I think we just got a lot of cross traffic from that, because we kind of positioned it around that and was trying to make it like, how would this boot perform in a zombie apocalypse? Because that was the whole idea. You know, we changed the sole construction. So instead of doing like the classic leather sole, I wanted it to be more comfortable for long hikes. So we went with the combination sole of the Sierra and that foam midsole, so you get the squish, but the durability of the rubber. It's a lace-to-toe pattern instead of your traditional pattern. So you can see how much further that goes down the front of your foot. Allows you to cinch it down, but more importantly, it's a lace-to-toe. So this panel here covers all that area that normally is not covered by boots. You see? And it's doubled up, so you get like a double, like built-in It's basically like, it's like this alignment patch and the toe cap doubled up naturally without all the patchiness. So we were able to get away with putting another freaking rose Anvil alignment patch on there. Once again, echoes the ND2 lines, and you know, both angular. It's really cool because it contrasts like the sweeping lines of the lace to toe with the angular lines of the tactical patches, and it looks just as handsome on the outside as it does on the inside. Like this boot. This boot is one of my. They're all my favorite. I say it with every single one. I've said it with all three of them. They're all my favorite. I think they all turned out sick, but this one is especially sick, and it's probably the beefiest. It's probably the best designed out of all of them. Like, for taking the indestructible concept, this one was probably the most effective. You know, I think you could probably make a case to say that like maybe leather sole would do better, and I think that's a fine argument to make. But the upper of it, I think, is about as good as it gets for an indestructible boot so far. So then, you know, like I said, this one pretty well nailed it. And that's why we're like, how many years can you do an indestructible boot? Because how many different variations of over the top and built and all this, and so that's why we really went back to the drawing board for the ND4. This is probably the most controversial of all the indie boots that we did, which once again is totally fine by me, because we got so much more attention on this collaboration because people were so upset about it. But because people were like, what the is that? It doesn't have vent holes. How can you call it a jungle boot even though it looks just like a jungle boot? I'm like, well, it's because it looks like a jungle boot. Like, but it doesn't have vent holes. And I'm like, that's all right. I didn't want vent holes. And so because of that dialogue, you know, people were like, how dare they make a jungle boot without vent holes? And all of us were like, we don't want vent holes, you know? All that extra attention really made these pop off. These were really effective too, because it's a really cool concept of taking a really soft malleable leather and basically taking a regular upper and then sewing on top an exoskeleton. Because if this black exoskeleton was removed, it would just look like a normal boot, heel counter, vamp, and then the upper quarters would be green. But because we wanted like jungle boot inspired, we wanted the flexibility of a more flexible, like a lot more tumbled leather, but still have the structure of a heavy duty boot. And so you're kind of like evolving the idea of the jungle boot. And they turned out sick. I like, despite some people being upset about it, I think the vast majority of people that got these love them. And I think it is actually something pretty unique and really interesting. And it's the same story as the Indy one. The moment the sale was over, people were like, bring back the Indy4. That thing's sick. I want that boot. You could freaking nail it with that thing. Bring it back. And like ever since the Indy4 released, I guess last year, like people have been like, bring it back, like we want the Indy4, bring it back in different colors. And so that's why you just can never trust anyone's opinion over your own. Maybe not generally, but like, unless you actually trust them. Because if we would have trusted anyone's opinion at any point in the comment section or on forums and listened to what they said, we would still be in Smithfield, Utah, using a tiny little bandsaw with no editors and no growth. If you trust your gut and you trust what you like, it doesn't matter if people hate it. And if it happens to come back around a year later and people are like, that was the sickest boot you ever made. Like, well, I didn't really hook into it anyway. Like, if they love it, if they hate it, ultimately it doesn't matter because I liked it. That's it. So we got the ND4, jungle boot inspired. ND3, Last of Us kind of zombie boot inspired. ND2, the evolution of the indestructible boot. The ND1, the most wearable indestructible boot of all time. The ND0, or the indestructible boot. The proof of concept, the flexing of nicks to show what's actually possible. That's the whole lineup. So for the ND5, it's like it has to represent the whole line. You know, we can't just do like, oh, it's pretty cool for the ND5, at the end of the series, bye. You know, I want it to be like big. I want it to be meaningful. I want like a lot of intention behind it. And so we played with a couple ideas. Nick sent me this earlier this year. Like, what if we did the ND5 as a new colorway? And I was like, this is like their gray color and black wax flesh, which black wax flesh, pretty cool. Let me just show you, like, just on camera real quick what it looks like when you beat up that. So see how, you know, it's not necessarily the same as brown wax flesh, but similar vibes. So okay, that's kind of cool, but like, it's just the ND1. like, we gotta do something. We gotta do something more. We can't just do like re-release the Indy 1 for the Indy 5. So then I think this was another idea. This might have even been the last year. We're like, well, what if we combined the lineman patch from the Indy 2, the upper from the Indy 1, the sole from the Indy 3, and I was like, okay, it's cool, you know, but it doesn't blow my socks off. You know, it's like, okay, I like it, you know, it's like, but once again, it's just like it's kind of like a pared down version of the Indy 1. And then I really liked this idea and concept. This was one of the more recent, I think this is the most recent one I have in hand of the Indy 5 prototype. Because this is their lace-to-toe pattern, but their HD pattern where it's got these like cutouts. It's got the bigger wraparound heel counter there. See how that stops there versus over here it stops there. But these cutouts are really nice. Lineman patch on there. But the problem was it's basically just the Indy 3, but slightly different because, you know, it's the exact same setup, lineman patch, different counter, but this counter's cooler. It lines up better. It like has this really beautiful sweep and then straight lines. The sole was different, but it's not a big enough difference to be like, this is a completely different boot. And then same thing with like the cutouts. I'm like, yeah, but it's different, but like this is mostly just an Indy 3. And to me, like honestly, I think it's a worse looking Indy 3. I think the Indy 3 actually looks quite a bit better. So it was a cool concept, but I like the Indy 3 more. So I can't have the Indy 5 be basically the same boot, and I like the Indy 3 more. You know, just even internally, I'm like, I'd rather not do it than do something I'm not hyped about. You know, then we went a whole other approach. We went Mad Max, like boot kind of idea, where I was like, what if we made the ultimate motorcycle boot? I funded the first like 4 years of the business by flipping cars and flipping motorcycles, repairing motorcycles, building little cafe racers, building little bobbers, little choppers. That's how I funded the business for the first few years. And they sent me some prototype pictures. This isn't the final prototype, but this is essentially what it looked like. So it was just like the regular boot with the padded collar and a little toe patch, shifter patch. And I was like, it's cool, I like it, but it's not an Indy boot. Like this is literally just like a boot with a shifter patch on it. And I'm like, oh, that's sick. I think you guys should launch it. Like that's a cool boot, make it. But it's not really an indestructible boot. You know, it's cool. Padded collar's cool. It's got the little HD cutouts, little shifter patch. It just didn't excite me. And it just wasn't like indestructible enough in my opinion. I wanted to be like, it's Indy 5, it's gotta be huge, it's gotta be chunky, it's gotta be big, it's gotta represent. Then I just begged Nix for months, honestly, like months. I was like, what if we just recreated the OG indestructible boot, the Indy 0, but as close as possible, color-wise, leather-wise, like everything-wise, but just barely wearable, just barely. You know, because that was kind of the idea initially with the Indy 1. Super awesome boot, super successful. But there still was some opportunity for like more beefiness. And so I thought as like a really nice end cap to the series, we start with the Indy 0, the indestructible boot, and then we end with the ultimate version of a callback to the original indestructible boot. Like the actual true, after 5 years, after tens of prototypes, thousands and thousands of Indy boots sold, coming back to the original, pulling direct inspiration from it to bookend and put the conclusion, the big finale on the Indy 5. That's what I was begging Nix for. And took a little convincing. And so there's only 100 available because they are tough to make. And you know, they're not that lucrative for Nix. You know, it's like, because they break needles, they have to redo uppers. They're such a pain in the butt to make. So huge shout out to Nix for letting me do the Indy 5 the way that I really, really wanted to. And for being able to do 100 pairs. Because it's sick. So let's unbox it. Let's do it. Math. The Indy 5, the final version of the indestructible boot, the last year, bookending it with the ultimate version of the indestructible boot, harking back to the OG boot. What does it look like? Let me show you. I've seen it today, but I'm still excited. Yes! Look at these boots. Look at that. This is the ND5. Look at these things. Aren't these things so sick? Little monsters. Little beefy monsters. Now, as you can see, very close to the original. We could have done it out of this same leather, but this leather's so thick, it's like 3 millimeters. It's really hard to break in, it's a pain in the butt. And I love the rough out version of 1964 leather. It's also the leather that was in every single Indestructible boot except for the ND4. And it's named 1964 after the year that NIX was established in 1964. And it has this really beautiful kind of warm tone to it compared to this like more cool tone of this leather. It's a little bit easier to break in, more flexible, more wax infused. Had to do the Technora burn resistant thread. It's the Indestructible boot, you gotta do it. And I like the contrast of it, like the black thread with a little bit lighter flesh out leather. And then obviously the big old inside lineman patch, just like the ND one. Just like the Indestructible boot, and just like the Indestructible boot, another lineman patch, double lineman patches, because that's what was on the original. And I love the look of this. I love like the top-down look, being able to look down on the toe and see like, okay, I love that it's like an overly built patchy boot that technically, like the ND3, technically does this exact same thing because you've got the 2 layers of leather that wraps all the way around. This is just done in a patchwork way, which to me looks really gnarly, looks really like utilitarian rather than like, it's just function based. So you have these double layers all the way around, which was solved a lot more eloquently with the lace toe pattern, but it looks cool. That's why I like it. It's like chunky, it's mean, it's gnarly. And so you can see how much that looks like the original Indestructible boot. And obviously we dropped it a little bit lower, so a little bit more wearable. It's got the typical sole combination for a pair of NIX. We got the heel stack. It's on the H&W last only. Leather midsole, the thick rubber midsole, leather heel stack. And so to me, you know, this is a beautiful end cap to this whole series because we started with this, went all over the place, jungle boots, lace to toe, all this stuff, and then came back to this. Back to the original, back to the initial concept that launched this entire product line for 5 years. And I think it turned out so beautiful. These literally launch tomorrow by the time you're watching this. I'm recording this on Monday and they launch on Thursday, and only 100 pairs. So make sure you're on that limited edition email list that's linked below. It's gonna give you early access, and they might all be gone by early access. And then the public launch is at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. The early access is 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And I even love like the little chalk mark right there. I love when you see the little evidence that these are actually handmade. So now it's time for the try on with the Huckberry pants. So that's the ND5. Let me know what you guys think. Huge shout out to NIX for being willing to do this specific project because every single one of these patches is double the difficulty of making these boots, double the potential for failure, and probably significantly increase the amount of failures in production of these boots. So get on that list, 100 pairs available. Sizing guide's linked below. It's the same sizing as any pairs of NIX that you have in your H&W last. Thank you guys for your support of the ND series over 5 years. Sold thousands and thousands of these boots over the last few years, which is absolutely insane to sell that many ridiculously over the top, almost unwearable boots to so many people that actually appreciate what they are for the craftsmanship that went into them from the lineage of however many years 1964 to today is. What a way to end the ND series. You know, very cool, very cool relationship and time spent with NIX on all this. I think we've made a huge impact on their business. They've helped fund us the whole time. They've been a big support. They've sponsored tons of videos. We've done more collaborations obviously with them than anybody else, and it's a really cool thing to do. So thank you guys. Appreciate all your support, and get ready for the drop of these tomorrow morning. If you missed out on a pair, I'll always beg NIX to make some more pairs, but I think we're keeping it to 100. Maybe down the road we'll launch another batch. So just in case you're watching this after, get on the email list link below so you're aware of if we do drop another one of these, if we ever re-release the other indie boots, any other projects we have coming out with NIX, you'll be alerted. And that's it. So thank you guys. See ya.